Dr. M. Arogya Priscilla, I welcome you, ma'am, and I welcome all the participants from other colleges. I welcome you all. Especially, I welcome our faculty and the technical members for supporting us. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Sir, shall I give sharing option, sir? Yes, sir. Right. Sir, I give an option, sir. Sir? Sir, your screen is not visible, sir.
I hope it is not done. Is it clear now?
Okay, sir. It's visible, sir, now.
Good morning to all present here.
Yes.
Very happy to present that today we have Aptitude test, Achievement test and Inventory. These three for today's discussion. Let us see what is Aptitude. Actually, we should first understand the difference between attitude and aptitude. Attitude, we have already seen attitude skills, and we have discussed. And attitude is something different from attitude. And in attitude, and it is an inclination, just an inclination only. But in aptitude, both physical as well as mental abilities, and it is for both physical and mental disposition towards particular job. And for any job, before getting into that job, and if the employer is interested in selecting the right person for their jobs, they will conduct aptitude tests. For example, for engineering graduates, an engineering aptitude test is there, mechanical aptitude test is there, clerical aptitude test is there, numerical reasoning test is there, verbal reasoning test is there, spatial ability test is there, and these tests will help the employer to identify the right person for their jobs. So in that way, aptitude scale is of much more importance, and as a result, very difficult for us to construct an aptitude test. But there are already standardized aptitude tests available in the psychological laboratories, and the people have already constructed aptitude tests on different traits and different qualities of a person, and hence selecting an aptitude test from the list of tests, available tests available in the psychological lab is very easy. For example, see here what has been given here. An aptitude is a component of a competence to do a certain kind of work at a certain level. Outstanding aptitude can be considered talent, and an aptitude may be physical or mental. You see, both physical as well as mental. Suppose I can give an example for this, and both physically and mentally you are inclined towards a particular job. That job will be an interesting one. The job satisfaction will be there, because your basic inclination is towards finding fault and in sentences and other things, and you are rearranging the sentences and all the classifying the things and all these things. And now naturally you may be considered to be having clerical aptitude test. And once you are appointed as a clerical, appointed in clerical post of some banks or some organizations, you will be enjoying that post. And suppose you are having a mechanical aptitude, but you have been given, you may not be satisfied with that, because your attitude basically drives toward that particular profession. So naturally, an attitude is a physical and mental disposition of a person towards any skill or job, towards a job or skill. That is aptitude, both physical as well as mental ability. Both should go together towards a particular profession. That is known as aptitude. But whereas in attitude, it is just an inclination. Attitude may change from place to place, from time to time, and all other factors are applicable for changeable factors are applicable for attitude. But aptitude is something you can have a different mental setup, but your physical setup is for that particular job. And naturally, we could see some children they are using some sort of mechanical items, like even in childhood days, and they will be rearranging different blocks. Now people are buying blocks for children, and if you happen to see some children, and they are going to there are many pet shops are there for kids, and the kids started buying cars and assembling cars, assembling houses, assembling different things like that. And that you can find, and some people will be having the ability of constructing a small house, even in that small, using that blocks. And some people may have that attitude of developing a mechanical instrument, using different things, using that blocks and all. You can see, if you happen to see, and that if you have correctly identified the aptitude of a person, and that is, you are lucky that even if a person has identified himself or herself, that what type of aptitude he or she is having, and if he or she chooses a career regarding that aptitude, then her career would be very bright. Suppose you can find some of the people who have joined MBA, Master of Business Administration. After MBA, they are coming to teaching profession, and they are asking for a B.Ed. Is there any B.Ed course for MBA? That means they have not rightly identified their attitude. Their aptitude is for teaching profession, but they have wrongly joined in MBA course. But whereas in MBA, the requirement of an aptitude is for marketing, for personal management, for finance management, and system management. But whereas in teaching profession, and the teacher, the candidate is naturally is in the habit of explaining, illustrating all the skills that are associated with teaching, or more and more with that particular candidate. And her physical attitude, physical position is also towards teaching profession. Mental position is also towards teaching profession, but he or he has wrongly chosen that course, and he or she may not be able to succeed in that course, and naturally they have to come back to the teaching profession. That is why in our system also we have one mistake, that is, we have not identified the aptitude, but instead we are giving different courses based on the merit list, and it is not so. But if you have if you are willing to give the courses like this medical course or engineering course and the other courses based on the aptitude of children, and the children will succeed in that. That is the thing here in the aptitude scales or measuring. That aptitude to do in kinds of work, whether developed or undeveloped. Ability is developed knowledge, understanding, learned or acquired abilities, skills or attitude. And sometimes the attitude can be developed. And later on, once you have some certain ability, develop those attitudes in the nature of in contrast skills and achievement, which represents knowledge or ability that is gained through learning. And what it says, no, actually the skill is something different from aptitude. Aptitude is an inborn quality, but whereas the skill or based on the training. Suppose you have been given a ICT training and how to use all these gadgets for your classroom teaching. Once you have learned, means these things are considered skills, but it doesn't say your aptitude. Your aptitude is an inborn quality. And what is it to test? An aptitude determines an individual's propensity to succeed in an activity. Aptitude is an exam used to determine an individual's propensity in an activity. Aptitude assumes that individuals have inherent strengths and weaknesses and have a natural inclination towards success based on their innate characteristics. Inborn characteristics. An aptitude test does not test study. It is knowledge. It is not a test of knowledge. It is a test of your innate ability. And I can quote the different things. Some people will be always talkative, and some people will be having social behavior. They will easily mingle with people, and they will convince people. They may be able to influence people, and those persons you can consider them or found to be having and that this marketing ability. And there are posts for which you can see that people will be always thinking of profit and loss, and where they'll be thinking of starting a own venture, starting a own business and like that. And that person you can consider as having some entrepreneurship quality or some enterprising quality. He is sort of having an ability which is ready to venture into a new business. And these also people can be categorized into different abilities, and the main drawback here is not able to identify the aptitude. That is the cause, that is the reason for most of the businesses failure. That is the reason for most of the people who have lost their jobs. And that is also the reason for most of the people who go on BRS, who go on some other kind of switching jobs and all. All these things are based on aptitude. So I think by this you could have understood what is aptitude clearly. And here are key takeaways. An aptitude test is used to determine an individual's ability or skill, assessing how they perform in an area in which they have no prior training or knowledge. Without training, what are the ability or skill you possess in you, that is aptitude. Schools use aptitude tests to determine if students are inclined toward advanced placement classes or certain areas of study like engineering or foreign language. If you have to go to a foreign country, or if you want to go to a foreign country, United Kingdom, UK or US, and there are exams being conducted, the TOEFL and IELTS exams are being conducted to test your English language fluency and other communication skills and all. And these course will give them better understanding of you, whether you have really an aptitude for a foreign language or not. In the work world, human resources departments at some companies will use career assessment tests to learn about the potential candidates' strengths and weaknesses. Career assessment tests. Some companies are using this career assessment test to learn about potential candidates' strengths and weaknesses. But I would like to say one thing. Suppose if you have applied for Air Force, and when I was in college, then I applied for Air Force. And in the Air Force, they will be asking you to write an exam. In that exam, and they will test your numerical, they will test your numerical ability, spatial ability, all other abilities, because it's very it's a very complicated post, and it's a highly task-oriented post, and if you want to be an Air Force pilot or Air Force something like that, you should have a keen understanding of everything around you, and you should have a keen observation and all these things. And they conduct a series of tests for 1 week. And after this, they will call you for an interview. That time also they will test all other abilities, and you will be asked to respond to the questions and all, which is given by oral method, just through mic or something like that. That time they will assess all these things in order to select the right candidate for Air Force and all these things. And schools use Aptitude. This is only a company to for their jobs. So they have used these type of tests, and for which they are approaching some agencies. Various agencies are having set up aptitude tests, and through that test they will give a output to them. So these candidates are good. These candidates are good in aptitude for your positions, and they will recommend those people for that post. In that way, the aptitude test is a very important test. And we, as a researcher or investigator, can use these aptitude tests, teaching aptitude tests, and all other aptitude tests you can use based on your research need. Now you see this in this picture, you can see there is a one plus. What are the plus? Innate abilities plus acquired skills and abilities. You should also have innate ability plus acquired skills and abilities. That means you may be considered as having that aptitude. Aptitudes for music and so everything. Music also very inborn quality. This is mechanical aptitude test, and you see here aptitude test. Here is the different types of aptitude tests. In which data checking. These are also known as error checking tests, and measure a candidate's accuracy and attention to detail. Spatial ability displays a person's aptitude for visualizing images and 3D shapes. And abstract reasoning, this is also referred to as diagrammatic reasoning, and relates to spotting trends and rules within sets of data. Verbal ability, verbal tests measure an individual's understanding of language. The test will usually include answering questions in relation to a paragraph of text. That is verbal ability test. Normally we are seeing these type of tests in bank examination and other things. And work sampling. This assesses a candidate's ability to learn skills and do the job that they are being hired for. This is work sampling, and they conduct this work sampling by which they are selecting people. And numerical reasoning, and very often we have found numerical reasoning is one of the key factors in the competitive exams of competitive exams for bank. That is essentially a math test. Numerical reasoning will ask questions regarding statistics, percentages and figures. Then mechanical reasoning, mechanical test, so how an individual is able to apply technical ideas to problem solving. So those who have really a mechanical aptitude will succeed in that. Those who do not have a mechanical aptitude, definitely they may not be able to succeed in that profession. That is the importance of this aptitude test. Again, this slide also explains the same. Our aptitude test is in terms of data checking. Data checking is for clerical posts, and verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, abstract reasoning, spatial reasoning, where we can 3D images and all these spatial relations and all. Mechanical reasoning and fault diagnosis. You are able to identify the fault diagnosis, then you will be fit for. These are all about test. Then now let us see about achievement test. Normally the achievement test, what do you mean by the term itself says achievement. What is the achievement that we expect in classroom? After the now I am conducting a test. That test is an achievement test. After that I conduct a test, and you are all appearing for that test. That is nothing but, and whether you have fulfilled, whether the task has been fulfilled, or what I have taught you, whether you have learned what I have taught you has been learned by you or not. In order to test that, we are conducting achievement test. Achievement test in the form of objective test to test the knowledge of students. After giving training, training after giving knowledge on a set of course is known as achievement test. An achievement test is a test of developed skill or knowledge. How you develop that skill or knowledge? By teaching, by instruction, or by system, or by any other method. That is achievement test. Even a computer can give some instruction in the interactive method mode. Also, you can have some instruction. After that, you can have a test. That test is known as achievement test. The most common type of achievement test is a standardized test developed to measure skills and knowledge learned in a given grade level, usually through planned instruction such as training or classroom instruction. Normally our teachers conduct tests. They are monthly tests, and then quarterly tests, quarterly examination, half-yearly examination, revision tests, and annual examination, public examination. These are all achievement tests. Achievement test. No, after the course you are writing a test. That is known as achievement test. And that achievement test scores are often used in an education system to determine the level of instruction for which a student is prepared. How well you are prepared after giving instruction. That is the aim of this test. The high achievement scores usually indicate a mastery of grade level material and the readiness for advanced instruction. Low achievement scores can indicate the need for remediation or repeating a course grade. Suppose you do not get a proper grade in the test after the test, and it is asking for a remedial measures. Suppose a teacher is taking English grammar. After taking English grammar, the teacher conducts a test. In that test, you can assume that 90% of the students have not scored properly in that test. Means the teacher has to re-instruct. He has to give a re-drill, or again he has to take the class, because most of the students have not understood. That means maybe fault in teaching, and the course objectives have not been fulfilled. And also, once you have achieved 90% of the students have scored, means the objective of teaching grammar has been fulfilled by the teacher. And only 10% of the people have not scored. And then why these 10% of people have not scored in that achievement test? Then you can go for diagnosis and measurement and remedial measures. That is, all these things are possible after knowing the score in achievement test. And no child to behind. Achievement tests have taken on an additional role of assessing proficiency of students. Proficiency is defined as the amount of grade appropriate knowledge and skills a student has acquired up to the point of testing. Better teaching practices are expected to increase the amount learned in a school year, and therefore to increase achievement scores and yield more proficient students than before. And also test the proficiency of students in a particular course. Suppose you have taken one history lesson to your student, and the students are answering even for the toughest questions and all. That means that the student has developed some sort of proficiency in that particular subject. And when writing achievement test items, writers usually begin with a list of content standards, either written by content specialists or based on state-created content standards, which specify exactly what students are expected to learn in a given school year. The goal of item writers is to create test items that measure the most important skills and knowledge attained in a given grade level. The number and type of test items written is determined by the grade level content standards. Content validity is determined by the representatives of the items included on the final test. So I would like to give a gist of what it has been said in this particular paragraph. And before conducting achievement test, what do we do normally? As a teacher, you should first to do content analysis. Then normally we are preparing blueprint. The blueprint, I have already told you, blueprint is based on Bloom's taxonomy of objectives, that is knowledge, comprehension, application, skill. These are all the four. And what are the levels, the type of, and we have 3 dimensions. What are the 3 dimensions? One is content-wise weightage, number 2 is objective-wise weightage, number 3 is question-wise weightage. And when we have these type of weightage tables, then if we prepare blueprint, the test item prepared by us will be a scientific one, which will definitely measure the student's ability. And why do we want to have this content validity? Because I can give an example. Suppose your class is a history class. We have taught about Babur, Akbar, Jahangir, and Jahangir, Shahjahan, and Aurangzeb. But you have asked questions mostly from Aurangzeb means, and you have left all the other rulers. That means your test is said to be not having validity because you have omitted one. So in order to check all the validity, in order to check the correctness of the items, content items, and what it says, some content specialists, or even in our school book, the content specialists have given idea about questions, and the exercises have been given after each chapter, and that will check the progress of the students in that particular chapter. And even if you conduct tests, and what are the items that you covered, what are the points that you covered in your class, all those items will be covered in your test also. Suppose that is why the teachers are asked to go for content analysis before taking a class. Before taking a class, you should do content analysis, and you should split what are the main teaching concepts and sub-teaching concepts, and all these things you should identify. After identifying, you can go for teaching. And after teaching, then again you can frame questions based on all the items. You should give equal importance to all the teaching points. Now it should not be lopsided one. It should not be one-sided one, and it should not be skewed in one direction or other direction. It should be balanced one. It should test all the domains of knowledge, and through which you have on the domains of knowledge, and that you have discussed in your class. Examples test. Some more example tests include a math exam covering the latest chapter in your book, a test in your social psychology class, a comprehensive final in your Spanish class, a skills demonstration in your martial arts class. After martial arts class, your skill demonstration. Each of these tests is designed to assess how much you know at a specific point in time about a certain topic. Achievement tests are not used to determine what you are capable of. They are designed to evaluate what you know and your level of skill at the given moment. Now see the difference. And suppose in aptitude test, it tests your innate abilities and the skills acquired. But here in achievement test, it tests after a particular period of time what has been taught to you, whether you have attained knowledge in that particular line, whether you have attained knowledge or whether you have acquired skill before you are going to a music class. And there are certain after music class, and the music master is asking you to play music. Because music means if you are playing in the same way the music teacher taught you, that means you have achieved. Achieved the objectives of the class. That is why this is the difference between aptitude test and the objective test. When are achievement tests used? Achievement tests are often used in educational and training settings. In schools, for example, achievement tests are frequently used to determine the level of education for which students might be prepared. Students might take such a test to determine if they are ready to enter into a particular grade level, or if they are ready to pass of a particular subject or grade level and move on to the next. Suppose, and again I can give example for this. And this test is to measure to what level you have acquired mastery in that particular subject. After assessing your mastery level in that particular subject, the next level, we have to proceed to the next level. That is why after each chapter, the teacher is conducting achievement test. After conducting achievement test, and the teacher can now measure, can identify whether the students have mastery over the subject, then we can proceed to next. I can give an example from maths. Suppose if you are a math teacher, you are teaching a simple addition and subtraction in algebra. Then you can in math, then you can go for addition, subtraction, multiplication. And after assessing whether your students have clearly understood addition, subtraction, and multiplication, you can introduce algebra. And after introducing algebra, if you are starting with monomial, then you can go for a binomial and polynomial. And all of a sudden you cannot introduce polynomial. So it is in a graded steps. in order to present your subject in a graded style, achievement tests help the teacher to assess what level they have understood. So they have up to come to this level. So we can go to the next level. In the same way, public exams, the annual exams are conducted to assess the knowledge and skills of students after they have identified that the students have passed with a certain percentage. We can promote them to the next level, from 6th standard to 7th standard, from 10th standard to 11th standard, and after the examination, on annual examination. That annual examination covers the entire subject matter of that particular 1 year, and in which you have passed with a certain percentage or 50% or 35%. The students are considered as having that required knowledge for the 10th standard. Now they are ready for 11th standard. So these are the basic begin using this achievement test. And what is the standardized achievement test? But our teacher made tests are not standardized tests, but there are standardized achievement tests, and standardized achievement tests are also used extensively in educational settings to determine if students have met specific learning goals. Each grade level has certain educational expectations, and testing is used to determine if schools, teachers, and students are meeting those standards. So, how exactly are achievement tests created? In many instances, subject matter experts help determine what content standards should exist for a certain subject. These standards represent the things that an individual at a certain skill or grade level should know about a particular subject. Test designers can then use this information to develop exams that accurately reflect the most important thing that a person should know about the topic. This is what I discussed earlier. And what it says, you have to give your test items to your content experts. Suppose you are a history teacher, you are constructing questions on history for annual examination, you give it to your other history experts, and if they consider that all these items have been covered, content-wise weightage has been properly done, and content-wise weightage has been given to all the contents, then it will be considered to be having, the test is considered to be having content weightage. And you can go for objective-wise weightage, whether the knowledge level questions only asked, or understanding level questions are asked, application level questions are asked. Suppose you should give equal weightage to these levels, and that also will be checked by the experts. If one level is missing, one level is lopsided approach, is having lopsided approach, one level is more, normally we are having the tendency of constructing more knowledge-oriented questions than understanding-oriented questions and application-oriented questions. And I can give examples for knowledge-oriented questions. If you are asking just the year and the data, year and the place of a person, a place of a thing, that is knowledgeable question. Instead of, suppose if you are asking a question on Akbar, and you are asking which year Akbar was born, and which year, what is the name of the religion Akbar started means, then it is a knowledgeable question only. But if you have to go to the next level, that level, what are the important, which one of the following is not stressed in the Dini Lagi, and if you are giving list of items, and that the students have to identify, means it is going to the little bit more level of cognitive process, the next stage of cognitive process, where the child is tend to move towards understanding level. And if you are asking them to locate the areas in which Akbar ruled in a map, given a map, asking them to mark and demarcate and the areas where Akbar ruled, and they are using given a map, and they have been drawing, means that is a skill test, and that is skill. And in that level, all these levels will be checked by experts. That is why it is considered to be having content validity. So in order to have an achievement test, we should have a content-wise weightage, objective-wise weightage, and question-wise weightage. And each question is having some benefits. Objective type questions is having some certain benefits, and short answer type question is having some benefits, and long essay type question is also having some benefits. So the questions should be having equal weightage in all these type of questions. And if your question items are distributed among these different types of questions, then the test is considered to be having question-wise weightage. Once you have these three weightages, you can prepare a blueprint. Once the blueprint is okay, then your achievement test is, to some extent, is a scientific test and systematic test. But most of the public exams are standardized tests using the different standards required for a particular grade level throughout the state. Suppose our public 10th public examination, 12th public exams are standardized achievement tests, wherein the teachers from different parts of the Tamilnadu are conducting tests and they are preparing in common using blueprint and all. That is why it is a standardized test, because it is applicable to the people who are in Chennai as well as Kanyakumari. And this is achievement test. And any test that measures accomplishments of an individual after a period of training or learning is known as achievement test. The type of ability test that describes what a person has learned to do, that is known as achievement test. The type of ability test that describes what a person has learned, see the word I stress, learn to do, that is achievement test. And what is achievement test? An exam designed to assess how much knowledge a person has in a certain area, topic or subtopics. Achievement test focuses specifically on how much a person knows about a specific topic or area such as math, English or science. It is a formal test, any test that measures the accomplishments of an individual after a period of training or learning. The type of ability test that describes what a person has learned to. Okay, this is about achievement test. So two tests are over, aptitude test and achievement test. Now let us see inventory. What do you mean by inventory? Inventory is a form of question. It describes behavior and the studying or its interests, attitudes. It is a list of items. Inventory is a list of items that will find out the innate traits and the traits of a person, the attitudes of a person, the interests of a person. And for example, interest inventory, that the MMPI, Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, that will find out. Suppose the depression state, the inventory is used. Suppose there are some innate characteristics that is not overt, that is not seen outside. And suppose we can seeing a person, we cannot identify whether he is having a depression or not. Recently, a CD actor has committed suicide. And looking at him, nobody will say that he has a depression. But how to find out? And there are some tests in psychological tests which will help us to find out the inner characteristics and inner thinking of a person. That is for that we are using inventory. And this personality inventory is used. What type of personality you are? Whether you are a cosmopolitan, you are having a cosmopolitan outlook, or you are a narrow-minded person, or you are a short-sighted person, or what type of person, a broad-minded person, or if you are a social person, or if you are a reserved person, or somewhat introvert or extrovert. On these are for these psychological characteristics and your interest towards a particular thing. And for all these things we can use interview. Some of the model I will show you, then we can go deep into it. For example, this is an example of MMPI questions, Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory questions. And we are discussing about inventory. Let us see what are the type of questions which will cover in this inventory. I like mechanics magazine. I have a good appetite. I wake up fresh and rested most mornings. I think I would like the work of a librarian. I am easily awakened by noise. I like to read newspaper articles on crime. See, my hands and feet are usually warm enough. My daily life is full of things that keep me interested. I am about as able to work as I ever was. There seems to be a lump in my throat most of the time. So these are all the items normally will cover different aspects of a personality, and that is in Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory questions. These are the questions. And you see, this is another example. I like gardening magazine. What type of person you are? To find out. These are all inventory used to invent. What do you mean by invent? To find out the characteristics of a person. To find out the characteristics of a person, whether he is having social behavior, he is having helping tendency, he is of good nature, and is of helping nature, good nature, like ecological system, gardening methods. Like I'm unhappy with my sex life. I feel like no one understands me. So whether he feels appreciated or not appreciated, whether he has a depression or not, all these things. In order to find out all these things, we have to use inventory. I think I would enjoy the work of a teacher. See, teaching the teacher, whether you are really having attitude or interest towards teaching profession or not. These are all the questions to make you to understand a particular person's knowledge, interest, and attitude towards the teaching profession. And for which we are using inventory. I am not easily awakened by noise. See, these are all. And again, I am easygoing. I have high standards. I enjoy time alone. Suppose some people are most reserved, they cannot reveal anything, they will not mingle with people, and I work well with others. Acceptability, sociability. I dislike confrontation. I prefer crowds over intimacy. And this is attitude inventory. Am I generally optimistic or pessimistic? Optimistic, a positive thinking person. Pessimistic is always thinking of negative things only. Do I tend to assume the best or expect the worst of people? Is my first instinct to be empathetic or judgmental? Is my first instinct to be supportive or critical? Do I send the message that I enjoy life or that I am barely enduring it? Do I come across as the captain of my own ship or simply a passenger? You see, these are all the things. Are you a captain of your ship? Yes.
Sir, your voice is too low today, sir.
Oh, too low.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now it is okay? Now is it
yes,
okay?
Sir. Yes. Now it is okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. And am I generally optimistic or pessimistic? Or do I tend to assume the best or expect the worst of people? Is my first instinct to be empathetic or judgmental? Is my first instinct to be supportive or critical? And you could have found some people who are always supportive or some people who are always critical of things, that whatever you do they will not appreciate, they will disregard you. And do I send the message that I enjoy life? Some people are enjoying their life, some people are saying why do we have this life, this life is boring, life is something like that, very tough task, that very tough one, that we couldn't endure that. Like that people will be having. And do I come across the captain of my own ship? Do I come across as the captain of my own ship? That means I am captain of my own ship. Means am I responsible for all my behaviors and all my successes and all my failures? Or I am simply a passenger? Someone is directing me, someone is guiding me, like that. These are all the things, attitude, different characteristics of a person, and these can be brought out using these inventories. Again, these questions let me read these questions for better understanding of this is a medical test. I feel that the benefits of anti-glaucoma medication outweigh the disadvantages. This is true or false? I am fully aware of pharmacological effects of all my prescribed medications. Medications make me feel more relaxed. Medication makes me feel tired and sluggish. Medications are slow-acting poisons. I get along better with people when I am on my medication. I cannot seem to concentrate on anything when I am taking my medications. I feel that my eyes are getting better when I am on my medications. My thoughts are clearer on medications. I am happier and feel better when I am taking my medications. I am in better control of myself when I am taking my medications. By staying on medications, I will prevent my eyes from being further damaged. So this is to test whether the students or whether the patients are really feel better after a medication. In the same way, we can also employ those inventories for the students. And suppose you can ask questions like I like to be in class. I like the history class. I like that. You can frame number of questions, and these can be asked to our students to assess whether they are having really interest towards school, interest towards teacher, interest towards a particular subject, interest towards the locality, interest towards the canteen, interest towards whatever things, everything. If we want to find out different aspects of our school and how do students feel about the different aspects we have provided in our school, you can use inventory. and this is reading interest inventory. Name, when I hear its name, it's time for reading, I am happy. Do you read outside of school? I have had a positive reading experience. It was when, days. I have had a negative experience reading. It was then I would like to read different kinds of books. I would like to read in a book club or with a group. I celebrate when I finish a book. How do you celebrate? I read for fun at least once a day. This is the reading interest inventory. This is depression inventory, because most of you do not know whether you are having depression or not. But the depression is the worst thing that has killed. Already we have seen in one of the psychologists who has committed suicide. Who is that psychologist who committed suicide? And if they have seen, Lawrence Kohlberg committed suicide because he had a depression. And he couldn't find, though he is a psychologist, he was having depression, and that depression caused him to commit suicide. And the cases are many. Then we could have found the recent senior actor and who has committed suicide, and you can find out the reason for suicide is depression. And unknowingly the depression will be there in you. And if you are having some sort of different behavior among your child, and you can bring them to a psychologist, and psychologists will conduct inventory, they will conduct different tests, and through which he will identify correctly diagnose the problem of your child, and for which they normally use inventories, depression inventory. And depression inventory is the most extensively used assessment for detecting depression in patients. Normally patients will be in a depression will be in depression. Suppose if you go and see corona patients, and corona patients, they are in depression. Even in newspapers sometimes back when I read, and one of the corona patient has committed suicide. The famous Tirunelveli Halwa shop owner Singh has committed suicide because he was affected by corona, because he started after identification. He was treated as a corona patient, and having come to know that I am being a corona patient, and that made him feel depressed in a depressed way. That depression made him to commit suicide. And like that, many people are here, because those who are continuously facing failure, those continuously facing a lot of social maladjustment, those who are continuously facing a lot of troubles financially, socially, and all these things will start developing depression. That depression will take away their lives, and if it is not properly identified, and for which the inventory is used. Inventory is to find out the different. So I just read out the different type of items normally inventory is having. So these are all the examples for you. And one thing I would like to say again, that see, this is another inventory where you can see, and why do you go to college? This is the question. Why do you go to college? And in that you can see, because only a high school degree I would not find a high paying job later on, because with the schooling I cannot get high paying job. If I go to a college, I can get a high paying job. That's why I am going to college, because I experience pleasure and satisfaction while learning new things. I go to college because I experience pleasure and satisfaction while learning new things, and because I think that a college education will help me better prepare for the career I have chosen. For the intense feelings I experience when I am communicating with my own ideas to others, honestly I don't know, I really feel that I am wasting my time in school. For the pleasure I experience while surpassing myself in my studies, I prove to myself that I am capable of completing my college degree. So these questions normally you can ask, and it can be in a Likert scale, and now using this you can conduct with the students, and you can find out the real interest of students for going to a college. So again, actually a concept inventory is a criterion reference test. I would like to explain there are two difference in criterion, two tests, criterion reference test and norm reference test. And the criterion, what do you mean by criterion reference test? And before going towards a particular task, we set certain criteria, and after that particular task, these criteria has to be fulfilled. And after which, if you are conducting a test, means that should be a criterion reference test. In order to be very simple, and the criteria, the teacher using a test is known as criterion reference test. Suppose you are going and stitching your clothes in a tailor shop, that is known as criterion reference test. The tailor is measuring you and stitching clothes for you, that is criterion reference. But instead of you are going to a cloth store like Pothys or some store, where you are going and getting ready-made shirts of 42 size or 44 size or 38 size, or sometimes pant size of 34, 36, 38. It is norm reference test. It is not based on your measurement. It is the norm fixed by some people based on Indian physics of a person, of a boys, normally at the age of, from the age of 30, from the age of 20 to 40 or 50, people will be having this type of body physique, and for which these different sizes are will be fit to the, will be the right choices, will be the right sizes, and the person can find out which one the size is better suits them. So that is known as norm reference test. But here the inventory is a criterion reference test because it focuses on the criteria for which they wanted to know your innate feelings. Let us read this. It is a criterion reference test designed to help determine whether a student has an accurate working knowledge of a specific set of concepts. Historically, concept inventories have been in the form of multiple choice tests in order to aid interpretability and facilitate administration in large classes. Unlike a typical teacher-authored multiple choice type test, questions and response choices on concept inventories are the subject of extensive research. The aims of the research include ascertaining A, the range of what individuals think a particular question is asking, and B, the most common responses to the questions. Concept inventories are evaluated to ensure test reliability and validity. In its final form, each question includes one correct answer and several distractors, because normally when we are constructing inventory, we should give distractors. I can give example for you for distractors. And normally students, you are after the class you are attending my multiple choice type of questions, and in which you can find the right answer, and the other answer will also keep on pulling you. I am the right answer, I am the right answer. For example, if you ask a question, which is the capital of India? Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, Chennai means you will be, Madras means you will be finding it very difficult, maybe finding it little bit difficult. But if I ask what is the capital of India, Delhi, then if I ask Madurai, Coimbatore, like that, very easily will put Delhi, because you know very well, because the other answers are not distracting you, not disturbing you. Other answer, this is the right answer, or not. That type of distractors should be given in multiple choice item. That's why each and every item should be a equally potential distractor, and you should be confused. You should be for choosing the right answer. You should think, oh, this may be the right answer, or that may be the right answer. Oh, it is nearly to my knowledge, no, to my view, it is nearly the right knowledge, or that is really whether I am choosing the right or wrong. And that also seems to be the answer for that question. That type of thinking, if you are gamming, means the other questions are considered to be having distractors. That is very essential here, because you can find out the right type of thinking. Ideally, a score on criterion reference test reflects the amount of content knowledge a student has mastered. Criterion reference test differ from the norm reference test in that the former is not used to compare an individual score to the scores of the group. Ordinarily, the purpose of criterion reference test is to ascertain whether a student mastered a predetermined amount of content knowledge. See, as I stated earlier, you are going with a predetermined amount of content knowledge. You are going to a class, you are going to a math class with algebra, that you fix certain standards, certain measures. These after my algebra class, I expect my students to fulfill all these things. If you go with these set criteria, naturally your test questions should be on these criteria. If you frame questions on those criteria, that test is said to be having criteria, said to be called, the test will be called as Criterion reference test, and that is what is it? Normally will be Criterion reference test. The distractors or incorrect or irrelevant answers that are usually based on students' commonly held misconceptions. Test developers often research students' misconceptions by examining students' responses to open-ended essay questions and conducting think aloud interviews with students. The distractors chosen by students help researchers understand student thinking and give instructors insights into students' prior knowledge. This foundation in research underlies instrument construction and design and plays the role in helping educators obtain and clues and students' ideas, scientific misconceptions, and didactologenic teacher-induced confusions and conceptual lacunae that therefore with learning. So why to be very brief about this paragraph, that normally we are giving lot of distractors. Even my questions, you can see that the other things you have to be very careful in reading. You have to read again and again, 2 times you have to read, then only you can correctly eliminate and correctly select the right answer. That type of thing, if you are giving, that means it will be having distractors. This is multiple choice mechanics diagnostic test, and all these tests are example for inventory. And this in physics subject, students completing introductory college physics courses, Newton's third law at the beginning of the course, FCA data, all these things are inventory. Then test versus inventories. What is the difference between test and inventories? The term test mostly frequently refers to devices for measuring abilities or qualities for which there are authoritative right and wrong answers. Such a test may be contrasted with a personality inventory, for which it is often claimed that there are no right or wrong answers. At any rate, in taking what often is called a test, the subjects are instructed to do their best in completing an inventory. See, what actually the test is determining whether right or wrong, but in inventory it is not determining right or wrong. What you tend to behave, what is your quality, what you tend to behave, what you like, what you dislike, and that kind of thing is brought out through this inventory. That is the distinction between test and inventory. And inventory is a complete listing of, suppose sometimes inventory, we will be having list of stocks on hand, list of work in progress, a list of raw materials available, and all these things through inventory we find out. So suppose a businessman is giving inventory to find out how much stock available, and using that inventory they will be giving a report to the manager, and this much stock we are having, and this much stock should be procured again, and the item represented on a such list as a merchant stock of goods, the aggregate value of stock of goods. So normally we are finding out if stocks are over board, then naturally the company will think of clearing the stock, and then they will assess the total value of a stock. So they have from manufacturer they have purchased lot of stock, and they will be assessing the value, aggregate value of a stock. The value of a stock is something suppose is very high, they will think of clearing the stock, because the interest that they are paying for purchasing these stocks will be going up, and in order to alleviate that, in order to reduce that overload of interest, and they will think of clearing the stock. In order to clear the stock, they will have they will use inventory to assess the aggregate value of a stock of goods. So inventories are used for all these purposes, and this is the concept of inventory. Stock again, this is related to inventory. And you can see the statement, science classes are interesting. I am not very enthusiastic about science. Class activities are good. Most class activities are monotonous. It is fun working on science problems. The problems we are studying are unimportant. Reading the textbook is a waste of time. I enjoy reading the textbook. Science laboratory is dull and boring. The laboratory experiments are interesting. This is attitude towards science course. So this is also you can use as an inventory to find out the interest of students on science classes and science subjects. So these are all the things today. These are the things I have for you today. I hope you have all clearly understood aptitude test, achievement test, and inventory. With this, I wind up my discussion, my session, and I hope you all have understood. If you have any queries, you can ask me right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any queries, put on the chat box. Participants, if you have any queries, put on the chat box. Sir, there is no.
No
Sir?
questions. No questions.
Anupriya Kumari. No, sir. One question, sir. Anupriya Kumari asks, what is the difference between achievement and standard achievement test? What is the difference?
Normally, that achievement test, we are conducting achievement test. After teaching, you are conducting achievement test. Okay, because you are conducting, you are going through all the steps required for conducting an achievement test, like content-wise weightage, objective-wise weightage, question-wise weightage, preparing blueprint, and you are conducting achievement test. While this is suitable for your class, not for all other classes, but the same subject throughout the state, if all the teachers are agreed upon common questions by facing, by checking content validity and by checking on all other content-wise weightages, that is known as standardized test. Standardized test means the common standard for all the students, irrespective of the places that you have been employed, and that test should be equally tough for students from Chennai and from Kanyakumari, from Coimbatore, from Ramnad district. So suppose to all the levels, if you have that test is equal, the test is common, that is known as standardized test. For that standardized test, normally public examination, you can see how much effort the government is taking for preparing questions for public examination, covering all the aspects of the chapters, covering all chapters in a particular year. They are constructing questions, going through the rigorous process of blueprint preparation and identifying the different places, and this is known as standardized test. Standardized test, they are following more standardized procedures than you, and it is little bit more than you. Normally, as a teacher, you will be conducting test, that is achievement test, and if it is conducted in a large level, that is a standard test. For example, public exam questions, 10 standard questions, 10 standard questions, these are all standardized achievement tests.
Yeah, okay, sir. And next, Suprita asks, from which age of children inventory is best?
Inventory is used for the students who can respond by by even verbal behavior. Even for illiterate, all people are using inventory. Inventory, don't think that inventory is using only questions, verbal questions. Even without verbal questions, by showing some figures, you can find out the innate potential. Suppose if you have to find out the depression level of a person who is an illiterate, and how can you expect that he will be responding to all your questions? Naturally, you may not be able to respond to your questions by verbatim. So you may be, suppose if you are asking in figural way, he may be able to respond. This one, they will be. So normally this inventory, even in the hill areas and all, and the sociological research investigators, and what do? They use the local made things to identify their happiness, their depression, and their and all other aspects of all other psychological aspects of them. So that time they use, suppose if they are having, if you happen to measure the happiness of a person who are working in a tea estate, company, then where they are illiterate, and what are the measures you will take, and how much you are taking of food, and all these things will be given in a pictorial form, and using that pictorial form you can identify their liking, their happiness, their depression, and everything, etc., etc. So that's why the inventory is from the not very below level, from after 6 or 7 years you can use this inventory, because those who can respond, for the people who can respond as per the Piaget's level of cognitive process, you can start those who are giving formal operations. Then after 12 years, they can easily identify these are the problems I have. They can identify themselves. So it is my view that if we go by psychology, cognitive psychology view, Piaget says formal operation stage starts only after 12. So we can use this inventory for the people who are after 12. That means after 6th standard or 7th standard.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And Kode asks, which tool are best, standardized or self-made questions for research?
For research now, if you follow content-wise weightage, if you follow blueprint, that's okay. Not necessary to go for standardized test. You can go with, because for example, most of the scholars under my guidance, they have conducted experimental study for which we are using only criterion references. For constructing the criterion references, what do? First we do content-wise weightage, and content we are identifying teaching points before going for an experiment, and after experiment we are listing out those teaching points, and we are constructing questions for each teaching point, 2 or 3 questions for each teaching point. After which what do? We ask them to go for content-wise weightage checking and objective, because question-wise weightage is not there, because we are giving only multiple choice objective type questioning, and we are asking them to go for objective-wise weightage. Objective-wise weightage and content-wise weightage is ensured. Then we prepare a blueprint, and if we are satisfied with the blueprint, we go for test conduct. We go for trial. After the trial, that we are finding out discriminative level and difficulty level. Once we have identified discriminative level and difficulty level, then we eliminate some questions, and after eliminating those questions, again we are seeing content-wise weightage and objective-wise weightage. Then we prepare blueprint, after which we are taking the test as a criterion reference test. That simple procedure. For a class teacher, you can see content-wise weightage, objective-wise weightage, question-wise weightage, and prepare blueprint. That is enough for you. That is enough for your research also.
Yeah, thank you, sir. There is no question, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much, students. Thank you so much. In the next class, we will see about techniques of research: observation, interview, and projective techniques. These 3 will be the next class. That is 8. Next preparation. Next class we will be preparing. After this, I have constructed test, and the test is the content-wise weightage. The test is said to be having content-wise weightage because I have given equal weightage to these 3 type of tests. And you could have seen my previous test also. In previous test also, whatever that I discuss, I give equal weightage to all the things. I never take questions which are from only one area, which is very easy for me. It is very tough for me to construct questions from all the things that I discuss. But I normally go for content-wise weightage. If you see all the questions before, all the tests you have taken before, all those things were considered to be having content-wise weightage, and also application level also you can find. Last 6 questions are all, there are application-oriented questions. There are so many application-oriented questions, and in that way you can also train up yourself so that you can have a better research. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Once again, I thank each and everyone present here. I thank all my team members, Prasita, Prasita, and Damodaran, Divya, Jamana Rani, Revadi, Mrugeswari, Muturani, Umarani, Subhanya. I thank my team members. They are all my support. They are all my pillars. Thank you so much. We will meet again.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to welcome Mrs. A. Rosalyn Anal, Assistant Professor, Department of Physical Science, Mangalkasi College of Education for Women, to deliver your vote of thanks. Rosalyn ma'am?
Jamna ma'am.
Yes ma'am, continue ma'am.
Saying thank you is more than good manners. It is good spirituality. Good afternoon all, honorable resource person and all the participants. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this national level webinar on Research in Education Part 7. I, on behalf of Mangalkasi College of Education, I express my profound gratitude to the resource person, Dr.N.Ramakrishnan, Syndicate member, Professor&Head, Department of Educational Technology, Tamilnadu Teachers Education University. Thank you very much, sir, for your surprising revelation and valuable information about aptitude test, types of aptitude test, achievement test, when are achievement test used, examples of achievement test, and inventories. Really, the session was excellent, most interesting and meaningful. I assure that the participants must have benefited. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Next,
you very much.
I am thank.
I thank
Thank
you
you, sir. Next.
welcome address and vote of thanks.
Next, I am thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Controller of Examination, Tamilnadu Teachers Education University for their motivation. Next, I record my sincere thanks to our Honorable Secretary, Dr. Ashok Kumar Sir, and respected Managing Director, Mr. Sakti Pranesh Sir, for their continuous support and guidance. Then, I would like to thank our beloved Principal Ma'am, Dr. M. Arokya Priscilla, for her inspiration and support. Next, I am happy to extend my thanks to the technical team professors for their dedicated work and coordination. Our heartfelt thanks to all the professors and students for active participation. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Once again, I thank all for your cordial cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you ma'am. Sir, shall we wind up, sir?
We will wind up. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.